SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Well, the issue of measurement of intelligence has been a great concern for psychologists. However, over the period of times, many scientific tools have been developed by psychologists to measure different human abilities. So, let us examine what exactly those tests are. First of all, the first intelligence test was created by Binet and Simon using simple tasks to distinguish children who do well in school from those who would not. Binet and Simon used the concept mental age to distinguish the bright from the dull children. So, that was the starting point of measuring human abilities, particularly measuring the intelligence level of students, school going students. That is in fact the historical root of the concept of IQ in the field of intelligence. Lewis Terman revised the Simon-Binet test and published a version known as the Stanford-Binet test in the year 1916. However, performance was described as an intelligence quotient, which was implied the ratio of mental age to chronological age multiplied by 100, and the formula is IQ equal to MA by CA into 100. To know more about the Stanford-Binet IQ test, these are some of the features described here. This test measures things that are necessary for school success: understanding and using language, memory, the ability to follow instructions, and computational skills. These are some of the important requirements for students' success at school level. However, Binet test is set to of age graded items. Binet assumed that children's abilities increase with age. So, therefore, these items measure the person's mental level, what they call or what they mean that mental age. They developed certain adaptive testings what that determines the age level of the most advanced items that a child could consistently answer correctly. So, children whose mental age equal to their actual or chronological age were considered to be of regular intelligence. These are some of the sample from Stanford-Binet test items. For examples like name object from memory, like complete analogy, like fire is hot, ice is dash. So, what could be the answer? Ice is cold. The simple answer is ice is cold. So, this shows that how the child identify objects of similar shape. So, answer simple questions: why do we go to school, or why do we have schools? So, this also gives a reflection of child's analytical abilities. And then another sample item is called define simple words, explain difference between a fish and a horse. So, in order to know the analytical abilities, the differential ability, whether the person is able or the child is able to distinguish between different objects, living organisms, etc., etc. Therefore, the questions are designed in such a way to explore the critical appreciation of a particular object by the child. Say for examples like what is the difference between a fish and a horse? Identify missing parts of a picture. Suppose a picture is shown, a cow's picture is shown and two legs are missing. Now, then you ask, is it a cow or what is missing in the picture? So, that shows the analytical ability of the child. Then answer questions about simple story, like explain similarities and differences among objects, tell how to handle certain situation like finding a stray puppy. In other items, define more difficult words like give explanations about why people should be quiet in a library. When you are studying in a library, why there is a board in front of you, please maintain silence. What is the requirement of that? Then there could be some other examples like identify more difficult verbal and pictorial abilities, absurdities, like say repeat 5-digit number in reverse order. Say for if I like to make the backward conditioning in proper order, you know, the way we calculate number in a series 1 to 5, then how quickly you can count from 5 to 1. So, identify more difficult and verbal pictures, absurdities, or repeat 5-digit numbers in reverse order. Define abstract words like sorrow. How do you describe sorrow? How do you define happiness? So, fill in a missing word in a sentence. So, these are some of the examples, but in case of adult, supply several missing words for incomplete sentences, like repeat 6-digit number in reverse order, create a sentence using several unrelated words, describe similarities between concepts. When we examine at any age, children who are average will have IQ of 100 because their mental age equal to their chronological age, but roughly 2/3 of the children will have an IQ score between 85 to 115. We have also seen that approximately 95% will have scores between 70 to 130. This shows the classification of IQ score in normal distributions. However, the summary of this intelligence distribution used to indicate that child's intelligence relative to other of the same age. IQ test measures an individual's probable performance in school and similar settings. Another outcome of this IQ question is that an IQ test measures performance, but an IQ test does not explain performance. So, therefore, people look for some other test. Here is some IQ test items. Most of the IQ test items are based on reasonings. Say for example, like water lilies doubles in area every 24 hours. At beginning of the summer, there is one water lily on a lake. It takes 60 days for the lake to become covered with water lilies. On what day is the lake half covered? So, the second item is a farmer has 17 sheep, all but 9 break through a hole in the fence and wander away. How many are left? So, this kind of questions are put to the students. So, what could be the answer? Let us see what could be the answer. The answer is 9 sheep. It is just a matter of careful reading. If you have black socks and brown socks in your drawer mixed in a ratio of 4 to 5, how many socks will you have to take out in order to have a pair of the same color? So, the answer would be 3 socks, because the ratio information is irrelevant. Similarly, if you have within a 7-minute hourglass and an 11-minute hourglass, how can you time the boiling of an egg for a 15 minutes? Washington is to 1 as Lincoln is to dash. Maybe the possible answer could be 5, because the task here is to realize that the relations is not the sequence of their presidency, but which denomination of bill upon which each face appears. So, this is how the IQ tests are developed and the IQ status are measured in students. However, other tests also emerged with the passage of time and with the help of scientific research. Westlers also David Westlers came up with many intelligence tests such as Westlers intelligence scale for children and later on Westlers intelligence scale for adults. So, he also developed OS3 that provides the profile of someone's strengths and weaknesses. Intelligence tests are very useful in evaluating the intellectual profile of the students or college going students. Each test is made up of 12 parts. Each part begins with the simplest questions and progress to increasingly difficult ones. It also consists of, the beauty of the scale lies in that it consists of both verbal as well as performance scales. So, it measures both verbal and non-verbal intelligence. So, verbal IQ is based on information, similarities, arithmetics, vocabulary, comprehension, digit span, etc., etc. So, the information portion consists of or measures a child's range of factual information, how much information is available with the child. Say for examples, what day of the year is Independence Day, or say for examples, which day we observe or why do we observe 2nd October, right. So, these are certain informations that are vital for measuring the information abilities. In terms of similarities, it measures a child's ability to categorize. For example, in what way are wool and cotton alike, right. We also similarities and differences both are measured. In what way table and chairs are different. So, we measure their categorization, their differences. In terms of arithmetic ability, it is the ability to solve computational math problems. For examples, if I buy 6 cents worth of candy and give the clerk 20 cents, I would get dash back in change. So, this is how we measure the computational ability of students. But in terms of vocabulary, which states that it refers to the ability to define words. For examples, what does telephone mean? What does a pen mean? So, this refers to the vocabulary aspects, because the child is trying to explain what the object exactly, what the word exactly stands for. In terms of comprehension, we have seen that we are trying to measure the ability of a student in terms of common sense questions. For example, like why do people buy fire insurance, or why do people go for life insurance. So, these are certain questions. We try to know how far the student is able to comprehend a particular problem and gives its viable answer. The next one is digit span. It measures the short term auditory memory, to what extent we can remember and how much information we can store, to what digit, like earlier time we used to say we can maximum remember up to 6 plus minus 1, but nowadays after this mobile years we can easily remember more than 10 digits. So, even it is also so the digit span capability is also expanding with environmental changes and exposures. We have also seen that performance IQ is based on coding and decoding, picture completions, picture arrangements. Say for examples like copying marks from a code and visual rote learning. These are also we have seen in other tests, like say for examples like coding and decoding. Say for examples here this is an example of the test of coding. These items are designed to measure the candidate's ability to codify an information speedily and correctly. See, the candidate is required to understand the rule or principles followed in an item, then apply the same to solve the problems. If AC is coded as FHJ, then KMO will be coded as dash. So, here are the 4 of the choices, 5 choices. The candidate has to find out the answer. Similar kind of items are also given in the matrices, what you call nonverbal. These items are intended to measure a candidate's ability to comprehend the logical relationship of the pattern and its parts. The candidate is required to select the appropriate missing parts for the completion of each figure. Yes, this is one of the example items. So, the candidate has to study the whole patterns, how it is changing, and accordingly to find out a choice that would complete the design. Right. So, similarly in also picture completion. So, the matrix is also one of the example of picture completion test, where telling what is missing in the various pictures. For examples like the children are shown a picture such as a car with no wheels and are asked what part of the picture is missing. So, therefore, these are certain ways to test the performance IQ. Another way is that the picture arrangement test, arranging the picture to tell a story. Say for you show a sequence of a series of pictures, not in a sequence order, in non-sequential orders, and you ask the students to put in a proper sequence and develop a story around that. So, that would probably help them to write a story from which you can infer or you can judge the performance IQ of that particular group. Another way is to measure their intelligence through block designs. For examples, arranging multicolored blocks to match the printed design. For examples, using the 4 blocks, make one just like this. The next is object assembly. This is also a sort of like putting puzzles together, like it measures nonverbal fluid reasoning. For example, if these pictures are put together correctly, they will make something. Go ahead and put them together as quickly as you can. Well, the Stanford Binet and the WISC 3 cannot be used to assess infant intelligence, because the Bailey scale of infant development are often used for infant assessments. However, certain these different versions of WISC and WISC scales, they are different because they are applicable to different age levels and grade levels. So, then do intelligence test work? To what extent we can make use of one's test score or intelligence score? So, to answer these questions, we must examine the reliability and the validity of a test. So, what is that reliability and validity? When you talk about objectivity of a test, so there are 3 important dimensions that we look into. One is reliability, second is validity, and the third is norms. So, there are various types of ways or types of reliability or ways of calculating reliability. One is called test retest method. Second is called parallel forms. Third is called split hub, and fourth one is called internal consistency. Right. So, there are different formulas are available to measure this. So, anyone test in case of test you retest measures, suppose you have developed a test, particular test, and you are trying to calculate its test retest reliability. The same test is repeatedly administered in two different occasions, and the test reliability is ascertained by calculating the correlation between the two forms of the two occasions, the two sets of scores. And second is the parallel forms, means two sets of parallel tests are developed and they are correlated with each others. So, in case of split hub, the test is divided into two halves, odd and even numbers, and then the correlation is calculated between these two sets of tests. But in case of internal consistency, each item is correlated with the test score. With the test score. Once the reliability of the test is established, then we go for calculating the validity. So, there are various forms of validity, say for like, but majorly we look into three important domains like content validity, construct validity, and criterion validity. The criterion validity is very important for intelligence types of test, and the content validity. The content validity is refers to that how well the contents have been included to measure a particular dimensions of intelligence. So, validity refers to reliability refers to the stability of test score, stability of test score, while the validity refers to the trustworthiness of test score. In other words, you can say the test should measure what it intends to measure. To make it more simpler, that suppose you have developed a test score, a test of political science. The test item should measure political science, not history. So, that is why many times in many places the candidates object that most of the questions were out of syllabus. So, what does it mean? It means the test suffers from content validity. That means, the test contents are not properly or not well covered in the test. Many times it happens. So, therefore, one has to be very careful about while developing a test and establishing its reliability and validity. But is there any relationship between these two, reliability and validity? Yes. A test, yes, there are relations. The only important relationship is that a test, in order to be valid, should be reliable. But a reliable test does not necessarily mean a valid test. Why it is so? It has reasons. Say for examples, studies on reported agings. Studies on reported agings among Indians. It shows that many errors or huge errors. How? Suppose if I ask you what is your age, all my students they respond the age that is mentioned as per their certificate age. But when they celebrate their birthday, they celebrate as per their horoscope age, right? But you ask them n number of time, what is your age? They will say this age. Nobody says that, or suppose somebody is stick to horoscope age, then they also keep on saying horoscope age. But mostly people use their certificate age as reported aging, but that is not actual. If a person repeatedly saying the certificate age, that is reliable because he is consistent across time, people and places. So, this is showing the stability of response. So, he is reliable, but he is not valid because that is not his valid age, not valid. Right. So, that is why a test in order to be valid needs to be reliable, but a reliable test need not be a valid test. So, therefore, a test maker should be very careful while developing a test. Thank you. We will come back in a short while.